everyone. My name is Sarah Blackstock, and I'm the Marketing Manager for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Thanks for attending today's webinar, PeopleSoft Innovator, Gallaudet University, Oracle Cloud Story. Before we get started, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items. This webcast is designed to be interactive between you and the presenters. The webcast console that you are looking at can be completely customized. You can resize or move any of the windows that you have open. At the bottom of your audience console, there are multiple application widgets that you can use. If you have questions about our content at any point during the webinar, please submit your questions through the Q&A widget, and we'll be answering those live. A copy of today's slide deck, a link to an OCI free tier, and our Gallaudet case study are all available for you within the resource widget. A recording of this presentation will be made available shortly after the live presentation concludes and can be accessed from the same registration link you used to register for this event. If during today's presentation you experience audio or screen issues, please press F5 or refresh your browser. If you continue to have issues, please confirm that Adobe Flash is installed and enabled. Again, if you have any technical issues, you can submit those questions through the Q&A chat widget, and we'll support you in any way we can. We ask that you take a quick review of our safe harbor statement due to the material that we'll be covering in today's webinar. And again, thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. I'm joined by Andy Finslow, who's the Director of Product Management here at Oracle, and he is going to present the Oracle story here on our behalf. And Andy, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce the rest of our speakers.
Thank you so much, Sarah. My name is OCI Andy, or at least that's what my friends call me. And I'm really happy to be here. This is a pretty special opportunity where one of your peers, Gallaudet University, which has a very special and historic place in the country, is going to talk about their real-world experiences, their best practices, and joining them is, and that'll be Daryl and Earl from Gallaudet, and joining them will be Arvind Rajan from Astute Solutions, which was their partner, their system integrator and managed service provider, who really helped them through their journey, their transition from on-prem PeopleSoft solutions to the cloud. So without further ado, I'll let each of you guys introduce yourself, and we'll dig into the story. Arvind.
Thank you, Andy, and hello, everybody. My name is Arvind Rajan. I'm co-founder and CEO of Astute Business Solutions. Excited to be here on this webcast today to share the story with Oracle and Gallaudet University. Astute Business Solutions is an Oracle partner acutely focused on helping PeopleSoft customers take advantage of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure and Platform Services as a means to modernizing and optimizing their applications.
Daryl, welcome.
Hey, I'm Daryl. And as you're watching this webcast, you may see a man, but you may hear a woman's voice in the background. That's actually my interpreter. We'll have two interpreters working with Earl and myself today. With that out of the way, I'm Daryl Frelich. I'm Director of the PeopleSoft team.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to be here today. I'm Earl Parks. I'm the Executive Director of Gallaudet Technology Services here at Gallaudet University.
Thanks so much, everybody. So just to set some of the context, PeopleSoft is one of the leading solutions across human capital management, financial management, procurement, supply chain management, inventory management, and higher education campus solutions. It's used by tens of thousands of customers around the world. And for many of you, it is your system of record. You could not run your business without it, and you've invested years and a lot of money and resources into customizing your PeopleSoft deployments and creating integrations with other applications, other components to make it work for your business. And this, of course, is one of the most precious parts of what makes your organization work. However, managing the traditional on-premises deployments of PeopleSoft is hard. Hardware is hard. I think that's one of the reasons why they call it hardware. It has all the challenges of managing the facilities and the actual equipment and power management, things that just really aren't fundamentally strategic to your business but require a lot of zookeeping. There's also the constant challenge of planning for capacity and how to scale up and down quickly, especially as your business cycle, end of quarter cycles, things like that may require more capacity than what you have on premises. Or you have to buy a lot more and then you just don't use it through the course of the year. So this is one of the big challenges on the hardware side. Equally challenging is on the application and the database side. All the maintenance, the administration, all of the challenges for how and when to bring out upgrades and new versions to address security issues, performance issues, bugs, but all of the risks that creates when you are bringing up those new environments across your organization, because this is a system of record, a real mission-critical challenge. So for a lot of customers, there is a strong desire to address this, to move to the cloud. But because this PeopleSoft environment, for many of you, has so many of those customizations and integrations, it can be scary to think about how you move to the cloud without disrupting your core business operations, how you can move to the cloud without having to fundamentally refactor, replatform, re-engineer that entire stack that you've spent so many years building and making work for your organization. This is where we, as Oracle Cloud, have some very unique advantages to help you and to provide some pretty powerful ways to do that cloud migration at dramatically lower costs with significantly higher performance and application productivity, and to give you a lot of the business and operational agility that you're really struggling with on premises. And Gallaudet will share a lot of their own experiences with exactly these challenges, but overall, I wanted to share some of the benefits that our customers are getting, and we have hundreds and hundreds of PeopleSoft customers that have already moved to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Of course, we have some unique advantages because not only do we have full control over the application, we have full control over the database, and we have full control over the infrastructure as a service. So as you look at your cloud options, Oracle Cloud is really the only one that has total control, total integration, total management for all three of those core requirements. What that allows us to do for you, one, is a significantly lower total cost of ownership compared to both on-prem and to other clouds, 38 to 52%. I'll show you some of those numbers in a minute. Some pretty dramatic performance benefits. Most of our users are getting 2 to 10 times faster reporting speeds, and this is with that lower cost. So it really is a double combo benefit. Things like DR and high availability within the system and across sites is now a simple point and click, and Arvind will share some of the best practices for that. How you migrate to the cloud is dramatically simpler. Again, we have very unique tools like PeopleSoft Cloud Manager, which can help with that. So you can migrate in weeks. You can manage lifecycle copies in a simple, powerful way. And that helps you to deploy in hours versus days. So these are some of the powerful benefits that you get, not just by moving PeopleSoft to the cloud, but by moving PeopleSoft to the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure with our unique capabilities. Just to double click on the total cost of ownership, we have hundreds of customers. These numbers are very consistent across those customers. On the left, you can see the sort of 5-year TCO across the compute, the storage, the labor, the networking costs running on OCI, and we compare that with on-premises in the middle and another cloud provider, AWS, on the right. You can see, compared to on-premises, there's significant savings for the infrastructure as well as very significant savings on the labor side, and I think the Gallaudet University experience really confirms that. As you look at the comparison with other cloud vendors like AWS, it's actually all from the resources and our pricing and how we've been very purposeful about creating a true second-generation enterprise cloud and the efficiency that you get, the higher service level agreements that you get with that all translate into much lower costs. In fact, we're the only cloud vendor that provides guaranteed service levels for not only availability, but also for performance and manageability. One other piece, which Arvind will really spend more time on, but I want to bring it right up front, is because we control, again, the PeopleSoft application, the underlying databases, and the infrastructure services, we've been able to build some very powerful capabilities into a tool that's called PeopleSoft Cloud Manager that allows you not only to migrate to the cloud simply, to leverage all your customizations and customized templates as part of that. Then once you're on cloud, to manage all your lifecycle copies, your provisioning, testing, all the dev test non-production environment copies, as well as DR in a really simple way. And of course, being on OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, you get very unique abilities to automatically scale on demand for those end of month, end of quarter peak requirements. And again, Arvind will take you through some of those benefits. So that's just a quick overview of the why you should be thinking about moving even your most important workloads like PeopleSoft to Oracle Cloud. All right, with that, I will shut up, and I'm happy to turn it over to Earl and Daryl to set up their part of their experience.
Thank you, Andy. That was wonderful. We are resolving a few problems with this move to the cloud through OCI. First and foremost, we'd like to start with our people problem. We have had PeopleSoft since 1999, and I mean that has been a multi-million-dollar investment over the decades it's been implemented. Since 1999, we have utilized a team of consultants and employees that have helped us implement the system, go through the Y2K platform, and move on to the next. And since then, we've just never really been able to, with the consultants that have worked with us on that project, to fully go through that. So since then, we have continued to retain 5 full-time consultants to work on the same operations. Budgeting from a university perspective, they've viewed that as us spending a lot of money on consultants and not necessarily taking advantage of what the system has to offer us. So those 5 consultants essentially consumed a quarter of our non-payroll budgeting and has long since been tied to that. With that, we were not seeing that return on investment. In addition to that, with 5 full-time consultants, we only had 1 DBA. We had an on-prem data center. We had 24/7, 365, full-time, round-the-clock, round-the-year expectations without the resources to satisfy that. So more often than not, we were coming in early in the morning, staying late in the evenings, coming in on the weekends, just focusing on day-to-day operations. That was part of the problem. In addition to that, in 2013, I became head of the Department of IT, and within just a few short months of coming into this role, I was awoken early in the morning on a Saturday from campus security to tell me that the campus was essentially dead. It had gone entirely offline. And come to find out, our data center had completely failed. It was the UPS system that had a fried capacitor, And with some sort of chemical spill that came as a result of that, and as a result of that was a cascading failure throughout the entire campus. It was the worst 4 days of my life. It was at that time that I realized we needed to just get away from the business of having a data center. It was not something we could continue to operate 24/7, 365, and really go anywhere with it. So we started looking into options, email, LMS, the web, taking a look at the systems that we were still maintaining on-prem. We had 3 PeopleSoft implementations: finance, human resources, and campus solutions. Now, we did start to take a look at the cloud, as well as beginning discussions with other partners in an attempt to figure out how best to navigate through this. The partner at that time did not have a lot of experience with OCI, had none actually. Not a lot of experience with AWS either. And it just so happened that we came across a webinar that Astute had offered on their hostings and their experience with OCI. And as we came across that webinar, that's what began us on this journey. But before I dive into that, I would like to talk fairly briefly about disaster recovery and business continuity expectations. I'm not sure if folks out there go on this on an annual basis, but we do have an annual financial audit that takes a look at our systems, ensures redundancies are in place, security, all of that is done on an annual basis. And they always ask us, what's our disaster recovery plan, and has it been successfully tested? For a very long time, the only thing we were able to provide in response to that was a document outlining what we quote-unquote planned to do if that were to happen. Knock on wood, we never had to actually go into a full effect disaster recovery other than the 2013 data center fail. However, for the first time last fall, our most recent financial audit, we were able to provide the auditors with verification of a disaster recovery scenario in which we can turn off one system and within minutes the secondary system is up and running without any issues at all. And I have to tell you, that felt really good. So part of our continued assessment on IT strategies and opportunities, we have long been looking at cloud as a critical component of that. The actual project of shifting to the cloud with Astute for me was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to transform the culture on campus by taking advantage of the lift and shift, which Daryl will describe more about in a moment. But taking advantage of that to, I don't want to say force, but I would say facilitate change in the mindset on campus. A shift in responsibility and a shift in the focus on functionality, as opposed to just working on keeping the lights running, which is not a great core business strategy, more focused on other things. I would also like to go back to the HR upgrade that we did on-prem, that was done ourselves with a partner. As an executive on that project, it has to have been one of the most frustrating projects I've encountered. Momentum could not be maintained. We would make a decision, we would attempt to implement, we would attempt to deploy an upgrade. It was extremely slow. The functional users were constantly complaining about lack of speed. We would become ready to move to a test environment, realize we hadn't yet completed something within the test environment. It would take a week or two to catch up with that. It was very, very frustrating. It went on for a very long time. So I can see why customers were not able to really have faith in our ability to deliver. This experience, however, has been a completely different experience. Finally, for once, after that upgrade, that lift and shift, in which you'll hear about very shortly, I think I will now finally be able to remove the title, zookeeper, from my job description. I think I can now just focus on the business's goals. Arvind will also mention cost savings, what we predict as a result of this project. It is around a $1 million cost savings over a 5-year TCO. One thing that's pretty difficult to measure, however, is productivity. The automations and the improvements that will result in an improvement in productivity. So, why Astute? Why did we choose Astute as opposed to one of the many other partners out there? As I mentioned earlier, we had previously worked with a partner who didn't have a lot of information with a lot of familiarity with OCI, minimal familiarity with AWS. And as I mentioned, I saw Astute's webinar, and I was pretty impressed with their experience working on lift and shift projects. They had done over 15 at that time. And for a small organization such as Gallaudet, Oracle is a very vast organization. So sometimes it can be challenging for us to navigate organizations such as that, finding the most appropriate person or resources. So taking advantage of a partnership, working with somebody who has that experience with Oracle and knows how to navigate the system has been amazing. Automated testing. One of the pain points here at Gallaudet has been the experiences of our functional owners. They are required as part of the testing sign-off process, but oftentimes they just click on things they don't understand. They don't truly grasp the full benefits of the processes, and attempting to navigate them through that has been a challenge. Moving to a more automated process has put more of the burden on business owners, so we could focus more on improvements in processes and efficiency. One thing I would like to add that was confusing for me personally in the beginning of the process was the notion of ODI credits or cloud credits. And Astute really helped us navigate through understanding. Essentially, we pay for a block of credits. Those credits are then used to implement servers, bandwidth, 24/7 CPUs, whatever the case may be. So we're then able to scale our projects to have, I think we had 5 databases for each of those applications, 24/7, 365. We weren't sure that we would really need to run all 5 databases 24/7, 365. Daryl leaves at 4 o'clock. He's not going to stay until 6 or 7 running the system, so why would we pay for that? That blended scalability. We were able to scale down to free up credits to then be able to be used for other innovative opportunities. For example, testing something new or speeding up new servers. If we're interested in new chat box options, testing those out. It gave us the opportunity to avoid very lengthy procurement processes and the flexibility to provide proof of concept in what we were seeing. We no longer needed to explain everything without truly having gone through it. Seeing is believing, so we were then able to do that. It also allowed us to focus more on functional business needs, not necessarily on the expensive, time-consuming process of just keeping the lights on, which is a required, it's an expectation of any organization today. One of the benefits is the partnership that we have in which we have access to a wider network of expertise. So we have access to subject matter experts in admissions, enrollment, financial aid, things we did not have access to in-house, and that has been a significant shift for us. I think with that, I will turn it over to Daryl.
I'd like to talk quickly about the project scope related to the 3 different lift and shifts that we did, finance, HR, and campus solutions. So our first 2 integrations were very basic. They were on the most recent version, so we were simply migrating to the cloud, and that process was fairly simple. Everything was being moved over as is. All the integration points were as is. So eCampus, as an example, ADP, our payroll and finance, it's run every 2 weeks, and there were no changes in either of those processes. So the project integration were very easy for those 2. Campus solutions, on the other hand, was a little bit more complicated. The lift and shift itself wasn't complicated. However, the work involved for the community, for our users, was a little bit more complicated. We were upgrading from version 9 to 9.2. That required a great deal of work from our users, our functional testing that was required. We decided to do a clean approach, which was very difficult. It was a difficult process, trying to convince the users that going clean was the best approach. What that meant was later the community realized the value of doing so. A specific example, well, I'd like to emphasize that we have had 20 years of customizations in PeopleSoft. So those customizations, some of which we don't even use or even realize we have anymore. So in our next testing cycle with the upgrade, with any PUM upgrades that we do, we have to go through all of the testing for all of those 20 years of customizations, and we were wasting a great deal of time with every PUM upgrade. We decided to be aggressive and go forward with a clean upgrade, and when the community realized that we're going to go clean, when we upgraded to 9.2, we're really going to have to do it. We had a lot of engagement with the user community with that process. Some of the customizations that we rejected, we had a page where we actually have 9.2 offers attributes. 9.2 offer specific attributes where 9.0 didn't. So there's actually places where we need to look for each individual to identify their status. Are they deaf, hearing, or hard of hearing? Because Gallaudet doesn't just serve deaf students. We offer services for hearing students as well. We have different categories depending on the status, the hearing status of each individual. So we had a specific attribute page. We got rid of that customized attribute page, but we still need to capture that information. So the delivered functionality has the option to have those identifying features.
I would also like to add to that is one of the reasons the lift and shift went very quickly for the first two is they were already on 9.2, and our decision to keep the integration points on-prem for those because those had already been created. So the move to the cloud was, in a sense, essentially just rerouting to a new server. Later on down the road, we do plan to move those integration points to the cloud. And at that point, we will be completely independent of on-prem power and or issues. Also, as Daryl mentioned, the customizations, I don't want to judge, and hindsight is always 20/20, but there are times during the progression and evolution of a platform where things weren't in place 10 years ago. They weren't available, so customizations needed to be done. But at some point over these years, it's been delivered. Those functionalities have been delivered in iterations. But we needed to address those functional needs from the end users. We were never able to do that because our focus was always on keeping the lights on, just day-to-day operations. Now we were able to do that.
And students have been reliant on technology in the tech department to deliver those customizations. And now with the delivered functionality, that's something we don't have to worry about anymore, and it's functioning very well for all of us. The timeline was very aggressive. You'll see that we had 10 weeks for the first two lift and shifts, the first one being financial solutions. Like I mentioned earlier, it was just lift and shift, very plain and simple. So we just spent that time migrating it to the cloud, and that gave the users some time to go to the cloud and do some testing and compare the cloud environment with our current on-prem environment to see where the similarities lay. So they tested some reports to make sure that everything was reconciled. Everything went well, and we were able to go live on the weekend that we had planned to go live on. We shut the system down on Friday night. We did some additional testing with the functional owners on Saturday, and then by Sunday we were ready to go. The same was true for the second lift and shift, HCM. To the point where the university saw how successful the first lift and shift was, we really had their buy-in. They were engaged. Initially, there was some skepticism, but by the second time, they really trusted us, and they were ready to go. And I have to credit Astute for helping us gain that comfort level in going live in 10 weeks with finance, because it was so successful, HR was so successful, and the community has seen the success with those first two projects, and they're ready for the upgrade from 9.0 to 9.2. We're going to be going live very soon with that. With all of those processes and the community's involvement, it's been fantastic. In the past, I've been working here for almost 20 years, and I have never worked directly with the PeopleSoft team prior to my current role, but I did have some engagement with them. And we had a very collaborative approach with the campus community. The functional owners, from the registrar's office to the finance office, were very siloed. We worked very separately from one another. And in that short 10 weeks, I've seen improvements in the relationships between our departments, and that's a great feeling. I would say I saw some reservations, but really it wasn't about the community necessarily. It was about my team, my internal team. Like Earl mentioned, we had 5 consultants that had been working with us for 20 years, and they were extremely reticent about migrating to the cloud. Based on their experience, they felt that 10 weeks was way too aggressive, and I had only been the director for a few months at that point, so I really had to get my bearings. I wanted to believe my team, but at the same time, Astute really sold themselves. They had already completed 15 integrations at that point, and I put my faith in them. With both of those projects moving as well as they did, the 2 lift and shifts were successful. The community is starting to trust us, and they're really excited about campus solutions. And I'm hoping I'll be able to give you some stories about faster reporting once that's live. We have about 4,000 reports that we migrated that need to be printed to a shared drive. That's the way that we have our financial system set up. And the reports previously started out at running 4 hours. So we would start the reports at 8:30. Many of those reports weren't run completely until after midnight, which meant that some of the reports were time-stamped as of one date, and the other half of the reports were time-stamped with the next day. And it's been that way for so long that people just became used to checking the timestamp to see what batch was being run. It caused a great deal of confusion, particularly with auditors, but it was just an accepted way of business. With the new system on the cloud, we were able to cut that runtime in half. Now those reports are being run in 2 hours, and the finance people are absolutely thrilled. The refresh time is incredible. So one of my favorite stories, when we migrated the system to the cloud, I was walking through the finance office, just checking in with the staff. I was talking to one staff person who had a glass or a mug of tea on her desk. And I said, "How's everything going?" And she was very disappointed. And I said, "Why are you disappointed? What's going on?" And she said, "My tea is cold." And I wasn't catching on. And then she started to explain that the reports used to take such a long time. She would bring it up, log in, go get some hot tea, set it down on her desk, and she would do some data entry. She would enter some data, click next page, and then she would take sips of tea every time she would progress to the next page. But because the process was going so quickly with the migration, she didn't have time to take any sips of her tea, and her tea became cold. And I think that's one of those stories that you think about, people don't have time to take those little breaks during the day because their workflow has become so much quicker than it used to be, and that's really thrilling for us. We did have some staffing changes. As Earl mentioned, we had 5 consultants. And at the start of the new year, we had 5 consultants. Now we're down to none. We haven't had to replace those positions yet. We're looking into some possibilities, but I was really surprised. I was very anxious about losing those team members, but without them here, things have been moving very smoothly. I anticipate even without those 5 consultants here, we're going to be able to do the 3rd lift and shift on time. Because we can focus on, rather than focusing on the system, we can focus on functionality. And Astute has provided a tremendous bank of resources that we can call on as needed. We've already called on a few subject matter experts to help us, and they come in, help us as needed, and then go on their way. And we're finding that that's much less expensive than maintaining 5 consultants full-time to maintain the system. Often we would have new systems like Campus Solutions. When we brought that on, that's a huge platform. There's many different modules, and our consultants on staff weren't familiar with those systems. So then we were investing funding to train them into using those systems. So without them here, we can bring in a subject matter expert that's already well-versed in those systems. So it's really helped our workflow tremendously, and we're in a great place now.
Yes, as Darla was mentioning, our relationship with the community, for a very long time, it was stakeholders against community, us against them. It really didn't make for a successful partnership. It was not very productive. But we're already starting to see and feel this shift. We're viewing all of us as a team, and that was really a wonderful experience for me. In addition to that, Astute has added several key components. They provided project management support, their knowledge and expertise in specific content areas, recommendations for us and how we should navigate through this process. It doesn't feel as though we have a partner. It feels as though we have an extension of our team. We feel as though they are part of our team. It's truly been a wonderful experience.
Very much so.
Okay, from here I'd like to turn it over to Arvind to explain more from Astute's perspective.
Thank you, Earl and Daryl. What a wonderful story. And I remember the audience getting a big laugh out of that story of the teacup when you mentioned that at Open World as well. So kudos to you for getting this done, and we really appreciate your collaboration and partnership as well. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about Astute Business Solutions at the company, what we do, and then I'll go into some details about the Gallaudet migration project itself. But our background is in PeopleSoft. I'm co-founder and CEO. I used to work for PeopleSoft along with my co-founders prior to the Oracle acquisition. So that's in our DNA. And our focus these days is to help our PeopleSoft customers take advantage of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure so that they can get a better experience overall and also gain benefits through cloud, such as automation, speeding up deployments, have better monitoring, and better disaster recovery solutions. We've been in business since 2006, headquartered in Pleasanton with offices in Texas and also our offshore centers in India. Education is one of the main industries that we focus on, but in addition to that, we have successfully worked with customers in financial services, professional services, healthcare, retail, and nonprofit. We are a Oracle Gold Applications Partner. We are a Oracle Cloud Partner. And we are also a OCI MSP certified partner, which means we can provide managed services to customers and transact cloud deals on your behalf, as we did with Gallaudet University. Our focus through the years has always been to take what Oracle builds and extend that or build solutions that may help customers overcome gaps or accelerate projects. And we continue to do that in the cloud world by developing solutions for industry on Oracle Platform Services. So one such solution is our Guru student chatbot, which is available in the Oracle Cloud Marketplace. And Earl referred to test automation. So FastTest is our test automation product specifically built for functional regression test automation for PeopleSoft, and that's available as well to customers to take advantage of. In terms of cloud services, there are three categories that we provide today. First one is migration. So helping customers first understand what the value is of Oracle Cloud, how they should benefit from that, and how they should plan that journey, and then helping them migrate workloads, whether it's PeopleSoft or eBusiness Suite or Banner, which is, as we all know, a large student information system platform out there, on a variety of underlying infrastructure solutions, Oracle Database being the key to all of these applications, but some of the larger customers also use Exadata as their database hardware and software solution. We've also migrated several SQL Server database customers, so PeopleSoft running on SQL Server is something that we come across from time to time, and we have been successful in migrating those workloads to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Some of you may think that's odd because Oracle would want to push Oracle technology in Oracle Database, but that's not true. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure is cloud infrastructure for any workload as long as we can run it on Linux or Windows, so including SQL Server workloads. Once we migrate these application workloads for our customers, we help them manage and maintain that. The goal with most cloud migrations is to relieve that overhead that customers have in the on-prem world, where they're burdened with infrastructure management, infrastructure refresh, facilities, heating and cooling, and things like that, and the patching overheads that come at the database level, at the infrastructure level, and at the application level. So our lifecycle management services take care of that service for our customers, so customers can then focus on using the application, extending the application, and improving their customer experiences. Monitoring is a key solution there. That's an integral part of all of our deployments. We use Oracle Management Cloud. We use Oracle Enterprise Manager, and Oracle Cloud Infrastructure has native cloud monitoring services that are becoming more and more sophisticated with each release, so we use those three tools in combination. Lastly, we help customers take advantage of platform services like Autonomous Database and Autonomous Warehouse, chatbots, analytics, and security solutions, depending on their business needs, so that they can continue to take advantage of the automation capabilities and features available on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So let's talk about how we collaborated with Oracle and Gallaudet to make the business case for moving PeopleSoft to OCI. As you heard Earl mention in his presentation, he spoke about coming across a webinar that Astute had presented on how we are helping customers lift and shift PeopleSoft to OCI. But we also did, in all of these instances, we worked with customers to tailor the solution as opposed to bringing a very generic model and saying, we think you might get, on average, a 35% cost savings. We wanted to make it very specific to Gallaudet's needs. So the Gallaudet team was very collaborative. They shared some information with us on their current state, including the amount of money they spend on-prem hardware, on contractors, and so on and so forth. And their challenge was to get away from that and have a more predictable cost model. So reducing operating costs was one of the key aspects of the business case. The second aspect of it was performance. Daryl touched upon the batch window for reports and finance. Similarly, there were other areas where, whether it was provisioning or refreshes, turnaround times and performance were really important to Gallaudet. And we all agreed that cloud could be a great opportunity to improve performance across the board, not just from an infrastructure perspective, but also from a database and application perspective. And we set out to do that. A big part of our solution was to have performance monitoring tools embedded into the solution so that we could always have a good understanding of what performance we're getting and be more proactive in addressing any performance challenges that came up. So that was something that we built into the solution and wrote that into the business case. And then the last part of it was, which both Earl and Daryl touched on, is they did not want to have a cloud move that was just going to be business as usual. They wanted it to be a solution that truly enabled them to collaborate with their business counterparts at Gallaudet University, and at the same time drive more innovation through new feature adoption, improving the UI, UX, improving workflow, and eliminating paper-based processes. So we spoke about how all of these things could be realized by moving to cloud infrastructure and getting onto a managed service model that would give them the agility that they desired. So here are some challenges that we discussed with Gallaudet about their current state, and we wrote in solutions in the future state on OCI that would address them. Not being current with the latest version of PeopleSoft applications, that is a concern that a lot of customers have. Gallaudet was current with financials and HCM. They were both on 9.2, on PeopleTools 8.56. Campus Solutions was on version 9.0, and Daryl spoke about how they decided to upgrade that and go more than 90% vanilla as part of that new implementation. So the idea was to give them not just a lift and shift, but a managed service model that would easily keep them current with PUM images, PeopleTools patches, PeopleTools upgrades, and so on over the next 3 to 5 years. Deployment time, having the ability to overcome the challenge of a long lead time, whether it was based on hardware and software procurement or just resource availability to provision a new instance or clone a new instance or perform a refresh, we leverage Cloud Manager on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure to automate all of these tasks so that the turnaround time could be significantly less. Security was a concern. Databases, the Oracle databases on-premise at Gallaudet University for PeopleSoft were not encrypted with TDE, transparent database encryption. And the advantage that we were able to deliver with OCI was with Database Cloud Service, a platform service on OCI, transparent database encryption is not an afterthought or an option. It comes natively with the solution. So we just had to flip a switch and turn it on, and it was there. So we had that added assurance that data at rest and when it was backed up was all in encrypted form. Capacity management, again, the challenge here was who's responsible for managing capacity, provisioning, and ensuring that you don't exceed capacity or lack of capacity does not bring the applications to a halt. So using cloud, we were able to scale up and down dynamically. Earl touched upon some of the aspects of how they're conserving credits with our help. So that was part of the solution. And then Andy spoke about the ability to scale up at every layer of the architecture stack on OCI, and we are employing a lot of those solutions for Gallaudet. Disaster recovery, the ability to automate creating and maintaining a DR solution. Earl spoke about the financial audit that goes on every year. And this last year in 2019, just in time for that audit, we were able to do a full-blown test of the financials production application running on OCI. We were able to shut it down and demonstrate that the DR system would come up within a matter of hours, and it was something that they were able to log into, check that everything was working, and then we were able to fail back to the original system. So it was a well-executed plan overall, obviously highly collaborative in nature, and this is something that we will be doing on an annual basis for all of their applications. So here are some reasons why Gallaudet chose OCI. You will hear from Astute and from Oracle about why OCI is the best place to run PeopleSoft applications and other Oracle applications for that matter. But the truth of the matter is that Oracle set out to develop Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for enterprise application workloads. And when they look at PeopleSoft applications, which Oracle owns, they have the source code, they understand how these applications work better than anybody else. They were able to engineer solutions on OCI that just made it easier to run PeopleSoft, manage PeopleSoft, and secure PeopleSoft on OCI. So security, performance, operational cost reduction, and ease of lifecycle management. These are the categories that you're seeing on your screen. There's a lot of data points there for each of them, but I would just summarize this by saying Oracle Cloud Infrastructure has tools and automation that you won't find in other cloud services, and it's hard to create in the on-premise environment. That just make that value proposition extremely compelling. One of the things that always comes out as a highlight when we do demonstrations or implementations is using Cloud Manager, you can do a completely automated deployment of a full stack for PeopleSoft, web, app, database, scheduler, Windows client, Elasticsearch, all at the push of a button. And that's possible because Cloud Manager is completely integrated with OCI down to the lowest level of the infrastructure stack. And customers don't have to worry about provisioning things separately before building the application, as they would do in the on-prem environment. So let's spend a little bit of time talking about the approach at a high level and how we got Gallaudet to OCI. It's important to understand what a reference architecture is for PeopleSoft on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And the takeaway from this slide is that Oracle and partners like Astute have already done the upfront work to define a standardized architecture and how that should be deployed on OCI by taking advantage of all of the native capabilities and automation capabilities that OCI has to deliver. Out of the box, it is highly redundant, it's highly available, and there is security at each and every layer. So it's extremely granular in the way you provision and manage everything on OCI. And it is purpose-built in the sense that a database cloud service on Oracle Cloud infrastructure is way better than running a database manually on-prem. From provisioning to management to patching and monitoring, everything is much better because of the automation capability. Performance is built into every layer of the stack, from the network all the way up to the application layers. There is a genuine concern for high performance, and Oracle has addressed that right out of the gates by putting in the best hardware and software capabilities underneath that customers can take advantage of without having to worry about how it is provisioned, who's managing that, and worrying about refresh. You're always going to be running on the latest stack underneath your cloud solutions. Network connectivity options. There are multiple ways to connect your data centers from on-prem to OCI, to connect third-party systems to OCI, because we know when you move PeopleSoft, it's a very tightly integrated system, not just with internal applications, but with also several of your third-party applications and vendors and suppliers that you may interact with. So in short, the architecture is already predefined for you. It is based on best practices. Deployment models are pre-configured. And Astute has taken this and built a whole series of Terraform automation scripts. And Terraform, for those of you who may have not heard of it before, is simply expressing infrastructure as code. So by sending a single script to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure and taking advantage of all the APIs that are available, we can build this entire stack in a completely automated fashion. So what does the migration look like? At a high level, you are moving workloads that are currently running in your data center to Oracle's cloud data center. But we don't have to do a lot of manual work in moving these because of PeopleSoft Cloud Manager. PeopleSoft Cloud Manager has a lift and shift utility that allows us to package up the customer's database and the PeopleSoft code tree from an on-prem environment, move that quickly to Oracle Cloud Storage, and use those images in cloud storage to then deploy equivalent instances on OCI. But you do have the flexibility when you're deploying those instances to right-size your architecture for better performance, better security, higher availability, and so on. So you are always looking at ways to optimize and improve your applications as you move them to OCI. Cloud Manager, again, is exclusively available on OCI. It's not available on AWS or Azure or Google Cloud. It's also not available for customers to download and use in the on-prem environment. And the reason for that is simple. It is natively integrated with the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure and Platform Services that we would typically use to deploy a PeopleSoft stack. And it has a lot of automation behind the scenes that customers can take advantage of, whether they're deploying a new instance or cloning an existing instance or patching an instance. So lifecycle management automation is a big part of that service as well. So we've seen a lot of success with the Gallaudet University project with PeopleSoft Cloud Manager. Here is another view of how we built a phased approach to the migration. And as you can see, we were expanding with every phase to do a little more and a little more. And this was intentionally done so that we did not have a big bang approach where change management and risks would be amplified. We wanted to start small, but also give incremental success at every step so that Gallaudet was comfortable with that. And I must reiterate, this has been an extremely collaborative process. Daryl indicated how they were, when we started this project, they had 5 contractors, and right now they're at 0. Somewhere along the project, these contractors were not available, but Gallaudet picked up the slack. We came in and stepped up where we were needed to help. And overall, it has been a huge accomplishment for everybody involved. Oracle and their cloud support team have been excellent in taking care of issues whenever they've come up. But by and large, I think it has been a very smooth operation, but a lot of effort has gone into it from all sides. Here's a timeline view of the project. And I wanted to emphasize that first line that you see, which is phase 0. That is the part that I was describing earlier about helping the customer build the business case for moving to cloud, going through the current state model, designing a solution. While we leverage the reference architecture, we take the reference architecture and then we extend or tailor that to Gallaudet University's specific needs, because every PeopleSoft customer is unique in some ways in their implementation, their architecture, their level of integration, the level of customization, and so on. Once we got past that stage and we started implementing, you would see in phases 1, 2, and 3, there was a lot of parallel activity. So this could not have been accomplished without strong project management, without strong client collaboration, and everybody working towards a common goal, which was we needed to get this done in a timely manner to control costs, to see outcomes sooner rather than later. But at the same time, we wanted to make sure that everybody understood what we were taking on and how we were going about on a day-to-day basis. All of this was backed up with a solid project plan, lots of reusable templates, and overall, it was a very good outcome. We are in the last stage of this project, so if you see the long pole in the tent is the campus solutions upgrade, roughly about 6 months. And we are working towards a go-live date in the first week of February. So far, everything's looking very good. As Daryl mentioned, a lot of work has gone in from the Gallaudet team to reduce customizations and get everybody up to speed on the latest fluid capabilities on Campus Solutions 9.2. But so far, it is looking very good, and we are ready for that go-live. As we took each application live, we also layered in the managed services. That includes the DR component and the application management and infrastructure management services. So let's talk about some benefits realized. Earl spoke about what they set out to accomplish as an organization and where they wanted to reduce contract spend and so on and so forth. So the projection is still that there will be a saving of $1 million over a 5-year term. And I would say some of that is already being realized because, as Daryl pointed out, those 5 contractors are no longer there. And with our help and with the automation capability in OCI and Daryl's team picking up a lot of the slack, they're still doing great without the help of additional contractors. And we are providing services on an as-needed basis so that they have granular control over the cost. A couple of other things I would like to point out: the 90% reduction in Campus Solutions 9.2 customization. That's a huge improvement, and it's a very big and I would say a very bold step that Gallaudet has taken, which I'm very proud of, and I think that will be a huge advantage for them as they look at lifecycle management and adopt new images going forward. Performance has been improved in batch, and then using Cloud Manager automation capabilities, we are able to significantly reduce the time it takes to build and clone and refresh instances. Overall, a very positive sign that there are improvements across all categories: spend for contract, performance, reduction in customization, and automation. This is what we're planning to do next with Gallaudet University. And we went through a brief assessment where we conducted some on-site workshops and identified some opportunities for improvement. I'd like to hand this over to Daryl and Earl to see if they would like to talk about these 3 initiatives and what it means to Gallaudet to take these on.
Sure. Thank you, Arvind. So, when you're very successful at something and everything goes on plan, you're on time and everything's going well, then the bar is set much higher. The community and the stakeholders are now asking us what's next, and that bar is much higher. So, like Arvind said, we're performing assessments, seeing what we need. We're working with 17 different groups over 1 week and attempting to identify potential opportunities. We'll also be working with Astute on that in those 3 areas. One of those areas is UI and UX with mobile and fluid. I mean, it's very sexy, if you will. Also, workflow automations. There were many inefficiencies in the manual processes, the paperwork involved, all the steps. So just showing the power involved here and with PeopleSoft. And in addition to that, work forms, and those flows being automated. So we're really looking forward to what we're able to deliver to our community and stakeholders.
I'd like to add something else to that. In terms of the UI UX improvements, if we go clean, a lot of the things that we're starting to realize is how critical going clean was. the more functionality that's delivered, we're able to utilize in the new UI and UX. We have a system in HR where we have a custom page with a number of attributes. And we realized there was functionality that wasn't working because the custom page has certain values, certain elements that don't exist in the delivered functionality. So rather than recode that and reinvent the wheel, part of the plan at least is to reduce that customization and use the delivered functionality. The delivered functionality that we want to use is ready to go out of the box, and we're going to see some cost savings in the amount of work that we have to do to retrofit the entire system, which is really nice.
And before we turn it back over to Andy, I would like to close by saying that we were at Alliance in Philadelphia. We will be at Alliance in Philadelphia in 2020 talking about this project. So you can look forward to seeing some updates following the final lift and shift. Our presentation will be named "The Tea is Cold." Thank you. Back to you, Andy.
Oh, I love it. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you, Daryl and Earl, and I want to thank you, Arvind, for your trust in Oracle and Oracle Cloud. I want to thank you for your investment, and I want to thank you for your leadership. This is really just such a wonderful story, a lot of important best practices and pro tips that you've shared with the audience, so thank you, thank you. For those of you who are listening to this, there's some immediate opportunities you have to explore this further and how this could apply to your PeopleSoft journey to the cloud. One, as Sarah mentioned at the beginning, there's some more details in a case study in the resources section of this webinar. Two, you can go hands-on and start a trial today at cloud.oracle.com/try it. This all has been rolled out also on our always free tier. This is a unique set of always free services. It's not a time-defined option like you have on other clouds. So you can actually build out your own sandbox with a very beefy set of resources, including our unique autonomous database services on the always free tier. You can install the PeopleSoft demo images as part of that, and here's where you can look at those. And of course, when you're ready to move ahead, you can work with your partner. We have lots of enablement to support them. Or if you're looking for a new partner, someone like Astute has really led and innovated and brought true best practices. And of course, you can work with Arvind and his amazing team. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day.